Morning, friends online. Good to see you as well. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to sleep under the stars there in Central Oregon along the John Day River, and really special, beautiful weather and that sort of thing. And when the stars came out, you start looking upward, and I noticed a couple of things. One, the first thing I noticed was, besides seeing the International Space Station fly by, it's very bright satellite, and that thing's cooking across the sky, and you're like, there are human beings up in there. And you say hello, and I'm pretty sure I saw someone wave back. Megan is telling me I have an overactive imagination, but these glasses, let me tell you, Warby Parker, there's a I noticed that there are satellites everywhere. And I thought, well, I remember looking at the stars back in the 80s, and if you saw a satellite, that was a big deal. Wow, look at that. And now, you can't look at part of the sky without seeing night sky, without seeing a satellite moving. It's like, it's getting pretty cluttered up there. The other thing was the immensity of, you're reminded of how small you are. And you start to, if you're courageous, you start to ask, what am I? Who am I? And what am I doing here? I'm a speck of dust. Insignificant. And so you're kind of thrust into the immensity and the glorious beauty and kind of existential terror of looking into the depths of the night sky, where you ask yourself, what significance is my ego? What significance am I? Part of my school reading is I've been revisiting Abraham Heschel's The Prophets, and I came across this paragraph this week, and it helps me answer that question of the immense glorious beauty as well as the immense existential terror one can find and experience when looking into the depths of the cosmos. Heschel wrote this, talking about what is the motivation of the prophet? Why did the prophet and the prophets of ancient Israel do what they did? What's the motivation? And he's setting up a contrast between how the Greeks saw things, understood the gods, and he quotes Cicero. Cicero wrote, "The gods attend to great matters. They neglect the small ones." And guess who the small matters are? To the prophets of ancient Israel, Heschel writes this: "To the prophet, however, no subject is as worthy of consideration as the plight of humankind." You see, humankind is centralized in the mind of God to the prophets of ancient Israel. Indeed, God himself is described as reflecting over the plight of humankind rather than as contemplating eternal ideas. God's mind is preoccupied with mankind, humankind, with the concrete actualities of history rather than the timeless issues of thought. In the prophet's message, nothing that has been bearing upon good and evil is small or trite in the eyes of the divine. That is to say, God has deep, heartfelt concern for humankind. And I thought about that. I thought about Cicero's quote. I thought about Abraham Heschel's statements about the prophets. I thought about looking up at the stars and feeling infinitely small. And the question of, what do I know? Do I know anything? And an answer came to me through the heart, and it said, the one that is holding all of this still desires my love. Not just my awe, not just my reverence, not just my knowledge that there is a God out there, but it desires my affection and my love. And I thought, well, that's the same thing that I want, isn't it? I desire love. The Creator desires the same thing, to be loved, to be known. I wonder if we could sit with that in a moment of silence before we open up in a word of prayer. Let's center down. Creator, we acknowledge your presence in this place. We acknowledge your image that each person carries. We thank you that there is that revelation and that knowledge of you. And Creator, as we consider in this meeting for worship, what it is that your heart desires. I'm reminded that it is not just truth and wisdom that is at the center of your concern. I'm reminded that it is not just beauty and stewardship, and that I'm reminded that it is not just power and authority that is near your heart. It is what is central to your heart is the desire that we all have. That intimate, vulnerable place where we ask for love. We ask to be love, and we ask for the permission to give love. And there we are oftentimes reminded and oftentimes surprised at not just a vision of you that is powerful, but a vision of you that is also vulnerable and that opens yourself to your creation. We thank you. We thank you that we can see that we can recognize that, and that you are so willing to continue to open that to us throughout our lives. May that be open to us in this meeting for worship. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn, turn will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn, turn will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right. Love is little, love is low, love will make our spirits grow. Love is little, love is low, love will make our spirits grow. Grow in peace, grow in light, love will do the thing that's right. Grow in peace, grow in light, love will do the thing that's right. Love is gentle, love is small, love will find the best of all. Love is gentle, love is small, love will find the best of all. Find the peace, find the light, love will do the thing that's right. Find the peace, find the light, love will do the thing that's right. Love is silent, love is strong, love will sing a silent song. Love is silent, love is strong, love will sing a silent song. Sing of peace, sing of light, love will do the thing that's right. Sing of peace, sing of light, love will do the thing that's right. Love is wonder, love is grace, love will bind all in its place. Love is wonder, love is grace, love will bind all in its place. Bind with peace, bind with light, love will do the thing that's right. Bind with peace, bind with light, love will do the thing that's right.
This is a quote from Parker. So can you hear me? Our vacation doesn't come Our vocation does not come from willfulness. It comes from listening. I must listen to my life and try to understand what it is truly about, quite apart from what I would like to be about, or my life will never represent anything real in the world, no matter how earnest my intentions. That insight is hidden in the word vocation itself, which is rooted in the Latin for voice. Vocation does not mean a goal that I pursue. It means a calling that I hear. Before I can tell my life what it is I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. I must listen for the truths and the values at the heart of my own identity, not the standards by which I must live, but the standards by which I cannot help but live if I am living my own life.
Thank you, Patty, for the reading. Parker Palmer happens to be one of my favorite people. Thank you, music team, for the music that stirs our hearts. And of course, Shirley, thank you. You start us off so well. So I have to say, as I was coming in this morning, I kept thinking it was hard to believe it was Memorial Day weekend. I was not wearing my winter coat. I mean, it was sunny, it's wonderful, I'm working in the garden. And then I remembered, oh, tomorrow I'm wearing my winter coat because it's going to be 20 degrees cooler and it'll feel like Memorial Day. So I hope each of you find ways this 3-day weekend to remember so many people in our lives. Friends, in our faith and practice, we state as one of our core convictions, quote, we experience the reality of the Holy Spirit as a guide, a friend, a counselor, and comforter, unquote. We are reminded by numerous Quaker writers the sources of this conviction. Arthur Roberts, who was a Northwest Quaker friend, beloved in the Northwest community, a frequent attender here, George Fox professor, wrote in one of his numerous, because he was a very prolific writer, articles in Quaker religious thought, that a basic Quaker assumption is that God reveals truth. These convictions provide some of the backdrop for how the 5 of us got here today. Megan, Molly, Lori, Rosa, and I. And they also became a little bit part of the framing of today's message. But it started with a nudge. We've all had the nudge. Let me set the scene of where I was when the nudge happened. I was at an elders meeting. For a couple of months in elders, we had been trying to find the right balance of how to provide pulpit supply while we honor what we all agreed to as a community, which is Mark's release time to pursue his doctorate and a teaching opportunity at Earlham. So it was not unusual for us to look at and think about who's available, yada, yada, yada. Well, in one particular meeting, Mark says, we don't have pulpit supply for the 24th of May. And I popped up and said, I think I have an idea. I said, I have an idea that's been percolating for some time about hearing voices, perhaps voices we don't often hear up here, from our community. They all said, great, got it covered, keep us posted. And off we all went. Well, the next morning, I have to admit, I woke up with a slight sense of panic at what I had agreed to do. So, borrowing a line from a TV show, I phoned a friend. And the friend I phoned was Lori. And Lori and I talked this through, and I talked a little bit about some of my percolating thoughts, some of my promptings. And in that discussion, I started to realize there were certain queries that I was trying to answer. such as how can we have people participate in the pulpit supply who don't traditionally participate in that part of our community, and or who have a message, but it's not a full 20-minute message? How do we, the community, hear and learn from individual journeys? How is God working people's lives? I have found that how God works in other people's lives can be strikingly and profoundly helpful to my own journey. What experience or truth do they have that will help us gain a broader and deeper understanding of our Creator? How do we use and have these journeys collectively to build community among us? So I came to believe that my nudge, understanding, whatever I'm going to call it, in elders, was to facilitate a format and setting for individuals in our community to share their experiences and their truth from their journey. Also in our faith and practice, we state, and again a quote, "We understand Quakerism as a path with the Christian tradition which emphasizes the practices of simplicity, peace, integrity, community, equity, and stewardship." We come to know it as the acronym SPICES. Well, we're familiar with SPICES. We've got a SPICES hallway. There you'll see photos by Scott Dietz and read material on each of the SPICES. In the overview narrative available there, written by Carol Spencer, she tells us how these, she shares how these central themes, values, and Quaker practice emerge and were fostered in the early 1900s by Quaker theologian Howard Brenton, as he sought unifying themes in Quaker practices and beliefs. SPICES provide the framework for the rest of this message. 4 women were asked to pick a spice, one that they were particularly drawn to, one that has been particularly impactful in their lives, either right now or in the past, and to share it with us. They could choose whichever spice they wanted. They chose 4 totally different ones. And so that was kind of fun. They've spent time thinking about it. They've spent time preparing their messages, each approximately 5 minutes long. They're going to go in the order of the spices. And I hope and I pray that this time will provide new glimpses and understanding of our Creator in our individual lives, as well as collectively strengthening the community among us. So, Lori, you could come first. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I picked simplicity. When I was asked to speak on a Quaker spice, I chose simplicity because I live a quiet life without much outside activities. We have no visible neighbors because our home is secluded. Simplicity, in my mind, is an appreciation of the nature that surrounds me. Serenity, the sound of water, bird song, happy, contentment, uncluttered. That's one for me to work on. My parents were born in 1916 and 1917 and went through the Depression, so we grew up saving pretty much everything: foil, string, bags, bottles, etc. This habit has its good side and its bad side. I look at my collection of kitchen utensils, pots and pans, dishes, and creative crafts, and realize part of my suppressed stress is too much stuff. I don't even want to deal with it. And I feel overwhelmed sometimes. I have a whole bunch of good usable items stored away instead of giving them through the thrift store. What was I thinking? Perhaps that is why I treasure simplicity, a goal to work harder for at a more peaceable spirit for me. Nature helps unclutter my mind. Observing the trees, the plants, the birds, and the little critters. Feeling the wind blowing, hearing the river, and feeling my spirit uplift within me. Sensing my Creator, reminding me I am never really alone. God is with me and gives me reassurance as I strive for simplicity and quiet myself before Him. Psalms 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. He encourages this quietness and contemplation. Isaac Newton states that nature is pleased with simplicity and nature is no dummy. Scott Adams, an author, simplification is often the difference between doing something you know you should do and putting it off. David Henry Thoreau, our life is frittered away by detail. Simplify, simplify. E.F. Schumacher, economist, says, any intelligent fool can make things bigger, more complex, and more violent. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. And finally, to some, simple means boring. Yet pursuing simplicity has numerous rewards. Simple things are easier to remember, easier to communicate, and more reliable because there are fewer things to go wrong.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry. I didn't follow the instructions. I apologize, Bert. Thank you, Susanne, for inviting me to speak. I'm Molly Kohrs, and I chose the spice community. When I was thinking about the Quaker spice of community, I kept returning to the song Crowded Table by the Highwomen. The chorus begins, I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Those lines speak to me because community has shaped my life in many different ways, both through the community I was born into and the communities I've built along the way. I grew up in a rural area in a large family where community was automatic. There were always people around, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, all with shared history. There was always room at the table. You belonged somewhere without really having to think about it. As an adult, though, my husband and I have moved many times, often to cities where we knew very few people or sometimes no one at all. And I think moving away from that early sense of rootedness made me realize how deeply I value community and how much intentional effort it sometimes takes to create it. Over time, I've come to understand community less as a place you're born into and more as something you build together. Some of the people who have become family to me are not related to me by blood at all. They're friends, neighbors, sometimes coworkers, people who choose to show up for one another consistently. The idea of found family, my favorite story trope, has become deeply meaningful to me. Another lyric in the song Crowded Table says, If we want to grow a garden, we're going to have to sow the seed. Plant a little happiness, let the roots run deep. If it's love that we give, then it's love that we reap. If we want a garden, we're going to have to sow the seed. Those lines feel true to my experience of community. Belonging doesn't just appear fully formed. It grows through small acts of care, through hospitality, through listening, through showing up again and again. Some of the places where I've felt that most strongly have been through volunteering and service. As a CASA, Nate and I are court-appointed special advocates. We work with children and families going through incredibly difficult circumstances. Similarly, volunteering at the Downtown Women's Center in Los Angeles and with the Oregon Food Bank, They've also connected me with people whose lives and experiences are very different from my own. And yet in all of those spaces, I'm reminded of how much people need the same basic things: dignity, safety, connection, and the feeling that they matter to someone. Those experiences expanded my understanding. They continue to expand my understanding of community. Community is not only the people who are easiest for us to love or the people who are most similar to us. It also asks us to widen our circle, to recognize our shared humanity and our responsibility to each other. For me, community has become less about having roots in one place and more about learning how to build belonging wherever I am, around a crowded table, shared work, shared struggles, and shared humanity. And maybe that's why the lyrics stay with me. At the end of the song, it says, "The door is always open, your picture's on my wall. Everyone's a little broken, and everyone belongs." Yeah, everyone belongs.
To move it. Look at that. I think as long as I didn't follow Lori, I was probably okay, right, on where it is. Didn't put the shortest and the tallest back to back. So I have equity, equality. I think it depends on where you look for which word they use. Before I was a nurse, I did public and community health. The question that I had to answer to get into the program was, does everyone have a right to be healthy? Right? My initial response is, duh, of course they do. Everyone has a right to be taken care of and be healthy. But I very quickly was like, well, wait, what if I'm wrong? Right? What if I am thinking yes, and the answer is no? What if I answered this wrong and I'm not going to get to go to school for this program? Something I am thankful for. Will you get me some water? It's tickling my throat. Something I'm thankful for in being a Quaker is that I think that the initial answer is the right answer, and I think that we all agree to that. I work in maternal health. I think everyone knows that. We have great disparities in equality in maternal health. We have some women that have much worse outcomes. Thank you. I took my pills without water today, so I think they're just sitting there. So I'm thankful that the Quaker faith believes in equality and equity. Quaker equality is rooted in the belief that every person has that of God, the light of God, the seed of God in them. Galatians 3:28 says that there is neither Jew or Greek, there is neither bond or free, there is neither male or female, as we are all one in Jesus Christ. So this Godness in all of us is something, sorry guys, you can just delete this part of the video, Bert. I gave a speech in high school once that went just like this. Okay, so that of Godness in all of us is sometimes the root of the E in the spices. Equality is understanding, acknowledging, and taking action in knowing that every person has equal worth and is deserving of respect and understanding. Lachlan and I yesterday played baseball. Take that as lightly as you can for hours, I think. I threw balls at him. We worked on reaction time. He's a catcher. I am not a baseball player. But what he was doing was trying to catch the ball in this hand and transfer it into this hand quickly so that he could throw people out on bases. He has a very good friend that runs slow. He has a friend who runs very fast. So I would say one name for one thing and one name for the other, depending on who it was. But the idea of that transfer, so he would sometimes not grab the ball all the way, not transfer it. And I thought, man, how is equity and equality transferable for us? Like, how do we transfer that from the idea of it in our hand to actually doing action with it? Because I don't think equality can ever be actionless. It is an action all the time. It's not just a thought, because a thought of equality is fine, but without an action behind it, it's just a great idea, right? I think the Quakers are really good at action when it comes to equity and equality. Historically, we have worked with social justice. We do racial justice, abolition, LGBTQ inclusion, criminal justice reform, economic and social equality, spiritual authority of women, equity in the Quaker world looks like opposing all forms of discrimination, championing diversity, because we see diversity as the fuller picture of God and who he created. Understanding that if God was one thing or looked like one thing, we would all be the same, which would be very boring. And that God is bigger and more diverse than just the picture of that man knocking on the door. That he is, maybe I should have had you print this out. That he is the burning bush, he is the split sea, he is the father welcoming his son home. He is a woman reaching for healing, he's the baby in the manger, he's the good Samaritan, he's the homeless woman on the corner, he's the gay man in your office, your doctor, your pastor, he's a Jew, he's a Gentile, and he's all of us. So if that is true, which I think it is, our concern for equality encourages us in how we live, and our spices give us a guide to behave in the ways that express the equal worth of everyone, acknowledging that there are equal parts to play and that everyone has value and is valuable. We have done this through being part of the Underground Railroad. We currently do this by being part of the blues that Daniel does. I think that is a beautiful way to be inclusive. I think that we have done this through a long history of fair trade practices, and that's something that we can continue to do. We can continue to look at how we're spending our money, how we're doing our things, researching the companies we buy things from, living more simply, like Lori was talking about, being peaceful, seeking peace in what we say and what we do, which doesn't mean shying away from conflict. I love conflict. I don't know if you guys know that. It's what makes me a good nurse, I think. But making the focus of your resolution peace within conflict. Having integrity in our hearts, doing things like paying those fair wages, and then taking a pause to seek the fruits of people who are speaking. I think that right now is something that's very difficult. Is who you're listening to someone who is focusing on integrity, equality, and equity. We're told to beware of false prophets, to be careful of what we're listening to. Equality can't come without compassion. It's how we seek justice and fairness. Quakers saw how elders were treated, how the elderly were treated, and were some of the first to put elderly into communities, to their own communities once their children were gone. And I've always thought that was good. I did long-term care for a really long time, and making sure that people are well taken care of has always been really something important to me. We've worked on prison reform. We've worked on mental health institution reform. And I feel like all of those things, the more I read about what we've done and what we continue to do and how they impact me every day at the hospital, because I can tell you, I work with a lot of mental health patients, and the change in how we've done things in the very far past and how we do things now, and that everything I do, I try to, have compassion and equality, and I find that most people calm down with a really good joke, and just treating people like people. So I've always seen the spices as a roadmap to living. to seeing all of creation as valid and loved and lovable, and then choosing that action, not accepting things that the way they are, because sometimes the way things are hurts us and hurts creation. Individually and together, I think that equity and equality has guided Quakers and should continue to guide us today.
I will speak on stewardship. Rosa Walker, I think everyone knows me. We are in wild nettle season right now. March, April, and even May will find me deep in the woods, a plastic bag in my right hand to guard against the sting, harvesting these plants for supper. Early nettles are tender, their leaves purple-hued. They are a harbinger of spring in the same way as the pale blue robin eggshells on the trail, broken open on the trail. My kids will crowd around me as I come home, waiting for me to steam them. We eat them with salt, and if we're feeling fancy, a little bit of olive oil. The flavor of wild greens is unmatched by store-bought spinach, most likely due to the layered and complex forest soil in which they grow. My mama taught me to harvest nettles and plantains, ramps, miner's lettuce in rural Eola, Oregon. We would tromp around, our legs beat up by blackberry bushes, holding bread bags bulging with wild greens, and trying to find our way back to our old Toyota truck. What a treasure trove. I could never understand why everyone else wasn't out there with us. As an adult, I run my local trails in Oregon City, Oregon, which is my other church, and I observe how the forest shifts each season. And in spring, I harvest nettles. Sometimes, coming off of a frenetic day of work, I move too fast. Greed and speed clench my jaw with the urge to quickly harvest all that I see. But usually as I wend down the trails, breathing in birdsong, forest air, I start to slow down. I snap just the top of the nettle plants, careful not to stress the roots. I harvest just from the middle-sized plants, not the small or rangy older plants that are already in seed. When I'm at my best, I move and act from a place of stillness. I listen, I slow down, I feel gratitude, connection, wonder. And I observe how the first patch of nettles always springs up by the creek right past the wooden bridge, how there are at least two types of nettles, some with a thin stem, some with a thick stem and floppy leaves. How some patches of nettles bolt or throw their seeds in response to the new pattern of hot, cold days, and some adjust a bit more. Throughout my life, I have grappled with the tenets of stewardship. As a young child living off-grid in the Argentine Andes Mountains, we grew and raised most of our food, and we rode horses to where we needed to go. Later, as the niece of a cherry farmer, we lived in the chemical spray shadow of those sprawling orchards. In the hunt for efficiency and profit, our bodies silently accumulated a load of toxic pesticides. As a wildland firefighter, I helped battle mega fires that were a result of 100 years of fire suppression, which interrupted a millennia of careful tending and preventative low-intensity fires by indigenous people. As a worker on lemon farms in Sicily, Italy, locals reiterated to me a focus on quality food grown well and with the taste of each area's unique soil. As a backyard gardener, concerned about an ever more precarious food web, I try to find heirloom tomato, chard, and fava bean seeds from here and around the world that will stand up to our ever more unpredictable growing seasons, driven by climate change. According to Merriam-Webster, stewardship is the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. Now, I would argue that ideally, the care and tending goes both ways. We strive to care for green spaces in our daily decisions, and green spaces also care for us. They offer oxygen, material, sustenance, shade. As Robin Kimmerer, Indigenous person and plant ecologist, explains, each person, human or no, is bound to every other in reciprocal relationship. Just as all beings have a duty to me, I have a duty to them. If an animal gives its life to feed me, I am in turn bound to support its life. If I receive a stream's gift of pure water, then I am responsible for returning a gift in kind. An integral part of a human's education is to know these duties and how to perform them. When we speak of stewardship, our natural world comes to mind, but we also on a daily basis can steward cultural traditions, art, education, relationships with people. All of these are deeply interconnected. And through all of this, the lessons that nettles teach come to bear. How to slow down, listen and observe deeply, give gratitude, take just what we need, give back even more, and how to keep showing up with an eye always to our planet and our children's future.